She's going to be elected.
Such an atmosphere of intrigue. You should see what politicians we are.
Oh, I tell you, Daddy, when we women get our rights, you men will have to look alive to keep yours. I'm really turning into somebody now, an academic. Courses in romantic poetry and Latin verse. I'm mixing salt with hydrochloric acid, and geometry is really complex. Listen to what I've learned. The area of the convex surface of the frustum of a regular pyramid is half the product of the sum of the perimeters of its bases by the altitude of either of its trapezoids. It doesn't sound true, but it is. Oh, and Daddy, guess what? Sally McBride invited me to spend the whole Christmas with her in Massachusetts. Isn't that lovely? I'm so excited to go. You have no idea. They are such a close-knitted family, dear Daddy Longlegs. How will I fit in?
Families. I never dreamed they could be so nice.
Sally has a father, and a mother, and a grandmother, and the sweetest little 3-year-old baby sister, and a medium-sized brother who forgets to wipe his feet.
And a big, good-looking brother named Jimmy, who's a junior at Princeton.
I've been here for just about a week now. Guess what Sally's family did? They threw me a bowl in my honor. It was the first ball I'd attended, with long white gloves and white satin shoes. I led the cotillion.
With Sally's brother, Jim.
If you could see me dance with him, dear Daddy Longlegs, the sight of Jerusha and Jimmy McBride. Would you be terribly displeased, Daddy, if I didn't become a great author after all, but just a plain girl?
Dear Daddy, Julia's desirable uncle came to see us this afternoon and brought a 3-pound box of chocolates.
Then he stayed for tea in the study, though we had an awful lot of trouble getting permission. Julia had to swear before a notary public that he really was her uncle.
Sally said the dean would have never allowed it had she chanced to see how youngish and good-looking Uncle Jervis is.
I told him I'd spent the summer at Loch Willow Farm. He was surprised I knew the place.
But remembered it very well himself.
We had a beautiful gossipy time about the
The
temples
temples,
and the horses
and the chickens,
and the
and the
cows
frogs.
and the sweet little skunks.
The sweet little skunks.
He even remembered the pirate chest in the attic.
And the boys' adventure stories.
He asked if they still kept
Donuts in a yellow crock with a blue plate over it on the bottom shelf of the pantry.
And they do! I called him Master Jervy to his face, and he didn't appear insulted. Julia said she's never seen him so amiable. But Julia hasn't a bit of tact, and men, I find, require a great deal. They purr if you rub them the right way and spit if you don't. Oh, and Daddy, here's the best part. Mr. Pendleton has invited Julia and Sally and me to New York next Friday.
Julia will be staying with her family, naturally.
But Sally and I are going to stop at the Martha Washington Hotel. I've never been in a hotel in my life.
Did you ever hear of anything so exciting?
I don't believe I'll ever go to heaven. I'm getting everything I want down here.
The lights are bright in the New York night. There's a bustle on the street. You feel alive, though you don't know why, and you're dizzy from the heat. The traffic moves in rhythm with your own heartbeat. When you woke today, you didn't know what the world is all about. You can never see the way you saw before, and now there isn't any doubt. A city full of questions that you must find out. Let me show you my Manhattan. It's mesmerizing, a metropolitan dream. You would thrive in my Manhattan. 1,000 lights for you to see, all the things you breathe. Let me show you my Manhattan, Jerusha. And a trolley car and a 2-cent plane, then Julia buys a hat.
So we're running late for a play at 8 about a Danish autocrat. A town that never sleeps. Can you imagine that? Let me show you my Manhattan. It's captivating. The New York Times at your door. You would flourish in Manhattan. So much wonder in the air. Nothing can compare. Let me show you my Manhattan. Jerusha.
Mercy, Daddy. Isn't New York big? Do you mean to tell me you live in all that confusion? It will take me months to recover from 2 days of it. Oh, and Daddy, isn't Shakespeare wonderful? Master Jervy took us to see Hamlet.
If you've never seen it on the stage, you really must. It's perfectly corking.
I've been hearing about Shakespeare all my life, but I had no idea he really wrote so well.
I always suspected he went largely on his reputation. You are welcome in Manhattan. It's waiting for you. Rendezvous in Times Square. Take a chance on my Manhattan. Algonquin is the rage. Caruso on the stage. Write a page about Manhattan. The plaza, rubbing elbows with a queen, while having drinks with Oscar Hammerstein. The Belasco and the Met, all sights you will not soon forget. Just hop on the Night Avenue line. This city could be yours and mine. My Manhattan, your Manhattan, our Manhattan.
Ferguson Hall, June the 2nd. Mr. Daddy Longlegs Smith.
Sir, having perfected the science of dividing a thesis under different headings, I will now adopt the same form for my letter writing. All necessary facts are included without unnecessary verbiage.
1. We had written examinations this week in A, chemistry, B, history.
2. We had junket for dessert tonight, flavored with A, vanilla, B, nutmeg.
3. I'm writing a special essay on the sources of Shakespeare's plays.
4. Louisa McMahon slipped and fell this afternoon at basketball, and she A, dislocated her shoulder, B, bruised her knee.
5. I have a new hat trimmed with A, blue velvet ribbon, B, 2 indigo quills, C, 3 red pom-poms.
6. It is 9:30.
7. Good night.
P.S. Oh, and Daddy, you'll never guess the nice thing that has happened. Mrs. McBride invited me to spend the summer in the Adirondacks with the whole family. Jimmy McBride is going to have some college friends visiting, so we shall have plenty of men to dance with. Dear Miss Abbott, Mr. Smith strongly objects and wishes you should decline Mrs. McBride's invitation.
Why, Daddy? Mrs. McBride wants me really and truly. I'll be a help. It's a fine chance for me to learn housekeeping. Every woman ought to understand it, and I only know asylum keeping. And she wants me as a companion for Sally. We're planning to do such a lot of reading together. And Jimmy McBride is going to teach me how to ride on horseback, and paddle a canoe, and shoot, and fish, and everything I've always wanted to do. Please let me go, Daddy. I've never wanted anything so much.
Miss Abbott, Mr. Smith has made his decision. You will return to Loch Willow the same as last summer.
Sir, regarding yours of the 7th, in compliance with the instructions received through your secretary, I leave on Friday next to spend the summer at Loch Willow Farm. I remain yours, etc., Jerusha, Abbott, Miss. It's been nearly 2 months now since I wrote you last.
Jerusha, enough is enough. No more duplicity, no more deceit. The man you think you know as John Smith, or Daddy Longlegs, as you so wittily nominated him, is none other than me, your friend. Your good friend. Your dear friend. Jervis, it is I, not Daddy Longlegs, who read your funny essay, dragged you from the orphanage, sent you to college, paid for your clothes, your food, your books, and everything else you possess. I'm afraid Daddy Longlegs is a figment of your imagination, just as Mr. Smith was a figment of mine. I am just a fool, an impostor and a fake, like the lady of the lake. I'm drowning in the waves of my deceit, but rescued by your face each time we meet. If I tell you the truth at last, would I lose your esteemed affection? Would you hate me and curse my name? I'd only have myself to blame. So, why upset you now, when we can still be friends, as the truth just slightly bends? I'm happy in my mad hypocrisy, pretending I'm the man I'll never be. Dear Miss Abbott, I've just heard from Julia that you are at Loch Willow for the summer. By an extraordinary coincidence, I am about to visit an ailing elderly aunt. Aunt, who lives a little north of there, and I'll be motoring back home in just over a week's time. I really must drop in and pay my respects to the Semples, so I hope you don't mind my sharing the old place for a few days. What a pleasure it will be to see Loch Willow again after so many years. And you too, of course.
Well, Daddy, you'll never, never, never guess who's arrived at Loch Willow.
Master Jervy!
It's such a nice time we're having. At least I am, and I think he is too, for he's been here 10 days already and doesn't show any signs of leaving. He still looks like a true Pendleton, but he isn't in the least. He's just as simple and unaffected and sweet as can be.
Such a lot of adventures we're having!
We've explored the country!
For miles and miles!
And I've learned to fish!
With funny little flies!
Made of feathers and twine!
And shoot with a revolver!
And paddle a canoe!
And ride on horseback!
On Sunday, we scandalized the Semples by skipping church.
And we climbed Sky Hill instead.
That's a mountain near here.
Not an awfully tall mountain, perhaps, no snow at the summit.
At least you're pretty breathless when you reach the top.
We stayed at the top for the sunset, then built a fire and some rocks and cooked our supper.
We came down by moonlight. It was so beautiful.
We laughed and joked and talked the whole way.
He's read all the books I've read and lots of others besides.
Before we got home, we got caught in a rainstorm, and we ran like crazy children and took shelter in a grove of gigantic old pines.
We sat in silence till the rain stopped, and the moon sailed back out over the scudding clouds.
I've discovered the secret of happiness is not to run too fast. I've discovered the secret of happiness is not to mourn the past. Nothing of any importance can last. I imagine the secret of happiness was the art of compromise. But I've discovered the secret of happiness is looking in her eyes. Happiness comes as a total I think, is how we're meant to be living. I've discovered the secret of happiness is all the stars that shine. But I've discovered the secret of happiness is something more divine. That her happiness is more precious than mine. The secret of happiness is the secret of happiness. The secret of happiness is here. The secret of happiness is here.
Dear Daddy, I'm so happy to be back at college and working again, though I got a lot to accomplish at Lock Willow. 6 short stories and 7 poems. Those I sent to magazines all came back with the most courteous promptitude, but I don't mind. It's good practice. And now, Daddy, news from the groves of Academe. I've elected economics this year.
A very illuminating subject.
And when I finish that,
I'm going to take charity and reform.
then, Mr. Trustee, I'll know just how to run an orphanage.
And just you wait to see the asylum I'm going to run.
It's my favorite play at night before I go to sleep.
I plan my orphans' lives down to the slightest detail, their meals and clothes and lessons.
And punishments, for even my superior orphans are sometimes bad.
But anyway, I'm going to make them happy. And here's another thing.
Don't you think I'd make an admirable voter if women had their rights? I was 21 last week. This is an awfully wasteful country to throw away such an honest,
Educated,
conscientious
intelligent.
citizen as I would be.
Oh, and that reminds me, at church yesterday, a preacher from Georgia said, "We girls must take care not to develop our intellects at the expense of our womanly natures."
It's always the same. Why on earth don't they go to men's colleges and urge the students there not to allow their manly natures to be crushed by too much mental activity?
P.S. Julia has invited me to spend Christmas in New York with her family. Fancy Jerusha Abbott of the John Grier home sitting at the tables of the rich. I'd rather go to Sally's, but Julia asked me first.
Dear Daddy Longlegs, Christmas with the Pendletons was such an illuminating time, but I'm glad I don't belong to such a family. The material atmosphere of that house was crushing. I never heard one word of real talk from the time we arrived until we left. I don't believe an idea ever entered the front door. Perfectly awful days. Christmas in Manhattan. Such pretension and pointless conversation. Perfectly awful days. The air of self-importance. I was drowning in social obligation. Poor Jerusha Abbott had to bear the brunt of it all. Poor Jerusha Abbott, the only orphan on the Upper East Side. If I ever marry and have a family, I'm going to make them as exactly like Sally and Jimmy as I can. Not for all the money in the world would I ever let any children of mine develop into Pendletons. I saw Master Jervy only once when he came for tea, but I didn't have a chance to speak to him alone. He was so uneasy, not himself at all.
His relations seem to freeze his blood.
Julia's mother says he's unbalanced, and it all comes from him being a bachelor. She introduced him to dozens of eligible heiresses, but he turned his nose up at all of them.
Julia's aunt said he was sweet on one of them for a while, but she threw him over for an English duke, and he never recovered.
Julia's grandmother suspects he's a socialist. She can't imagine where he picked up his queer ideas. He sometimes forgets to shave.
And throws away his money on all sorts of crazy liberal reforms instead of spending it on sensible things like yachts and automobiles and polo ponies.
No, Daddy, I think I'll be a socialist too. You wouldn't mind, would you? I probably am one by rights. I'm sure I belong to the proletariat. Now, Daddy, I must sleep, but we shall wait and see just what type of socialist I'm to be.
Dear comrade. Hooray, I'm a Fabian.
That's a socialist who's willing to wait.
We don't want the social revolution to come tomorrow morning. It would be too upsetting.
We want it to come very gradually in a distant future when we shall all be prepared and able to sustain the shock.
In the meantime, we must be getting ready by instigating industrial, educational, and
Orphan asylum reforms. Yours with fraternal love, Jerusha.
Dear Daddy, such a busy time. Vacation in 10 days, examinations tomorrow. Lots of studying, lots of packing, though the outdoors is so lovely that it hurts you to stay inside.
Julia is going abroad this summer to Paris and wants me to go with her. And Sally and Jimmy want me to go with them to the Adirondacks. So what do you think I'm going to do? You may have 3 guesses.
Paris?
Wrong.
The Adirondacks?
Wrong. I'll tell you, Daddy, if you promise not to make a lot of objections. And I warn your secretary ahead of time that my mind is made up.
I'm taking a job?
Living with Sally and Julia has been an awful strain on my stoical philosophy. They've both had things since the time they were babies. The world, they think, owes them everything they want. And maybe it does, for it seems to pay up whenever they need it. But as for me, it owes me nothing, and it's time to start paying back my debt. So I shall teach French and algebra this summer and begin to support myself.
My dear Jerusha, I've just heard from Julia that you decline her invitation to Paris. Are you insane? Foreign travel is a crucial part of your education, and Paris the most dazzling city in the world. Quite apart from anything else, I shall be there myself. And I'm sure we could slip away from our Pendleton chaperones and have the odd dinner together at some cozy little bistro. Write to me by return, telling me you've changed your mind, Jervis Pendleton.
Dear Mr. Pendleton, a change of mind is out of the question. I have secured a holiday situation with a Mrs. Charles Patterson and her sweet little daughter, Florence. Yours, Jerusha.
Jerusha, you are quite the most silly, foolish, irrational, quixotic, idiotic, stubborn child I've ever met. You really must learn to take the advice of those who are older and wiser than you are. Please reconsider your ludicrous plan, Jervis Pendleton. Dear Miss Abbott, Mr. Smith strongly objects to your wasting your precious time and talents on a pointless display of independence. He would far prefer you take up the Pendletons' very kind offer of a trip to Paris, where your writing career would be nourished by contact with the most refined company imaginable. Yours, etc.
Dear Daddy, too late, I'm afraid. I'm here at the seaside stuffing first declension nouns into little Florence Patterson. She is rather dim, I'm afraid, and uncommonly spoiled. She's never had to concentrate on anything more difficult than ice cream soda. But I'm writing my novel for 3 solid hours before breakfast every morning, so please have no worries about my literary career. Of course, I wanted to go to Paris with Julia and Master Jervie, and if he hadn't been so dictatorial, I might have changed my mind. But to be called a silly, foolish, irrational, quixotic, idiotic, stubborn child, that was what made up my mind. Please don't be cross with me, Daddy. It's bad enough that I've quarreled with Jervie. Have a lovely summer, wherever you are. Loving you always,
Jerusha, ma chérie, just back from Paris. What a fascinating city, and how sad the lives of those who never see it. Now, what do you think? I'm just looking at my diary, and I see the first week of September is remarkably empty, so I could just squeeze in a visit to Lock Willow. I assume you'd be free to join me. No answer necessary. I'll see you there. Jervis.
Dear Daddy, a horribly complacent little note from Master Jervie expecting to see me at Lock Willow in September. And a lovely long letter from Sally inviting me to Camp McBride for the same time. Must I ask your permission to go, or may I do now as I please? Yes, I'm sure I can. I'm nearly a senior now, you know. Anyway, I want to see Sally. and I want to see Jimmy, and I want Master Jervie to arrive at Loch Willow and find me not there. I must show him that he can't dictate to me. No one can dictate to me but you, Daddy, and you can't always. I'm off to the woods.
Miss Abbott! Mr. Smith positively forbids you to fritter away any more of your time on a purely social excursion to the Adirondacks!
Sorry, Daddy, but your letter didn't come in time. If you wish your instructions to be obeyed, you must have your secretary write more promptly. The woods are fine, and so is the camp, and so is the weather, and so are the McBrides, and so is the whole world. I'm very, very happy.
Dear Jerusha, I'm afraid I can't join you at Loch Willow after all. I've been invited by some very close friends to go yachting at Rhode Island. Have a lovely summer and enjoy the farm, Jervis.
Dear Daddy, what do you think of this? A note from Master Jervie sent to Loch Willow but forwarded here. He's sorry, but he finds he can't join me there. He's going yachting with some friends instead. But all this time, he knew I was with the McBrides, for Sally told Julia, and Julia told him. You men ought to leave intrigue to us women. You haven't a light enough touch. Oh, there's Jimmy calling for me to go canoeing. Goodbye.
Completely deflating. I've been hung out to dry. I wanted my cake, but instead she will make me eat helpings of more humble pie. And whether it's Jervis who writes or Daddy's decree, she falls rather short of obeying me. And now there's Jimmy McBride there by her side. I'm ashamed of the man I've become. Angry words on a page that betray all the lies I've spun. I must leave you to find your own way, to fail or succeed nonetheless. I've lost my heart, I confess, and it seems I've turned into someone I could not know less.
Dear Daddy Longlegs, back at college and a senior, also editor of the Monthly. I love my student life, but this year's different because it's the last. The swift hand of time is dragging me forward at a terrible speed. No news from Master Jervie. I fear he won't forgive me for ignoring him this summer. But I can't forgive him now. I must work and write and devote myself to you and all that you've done for me. Oh, Daddy, a blight has fallen over my career. I've been writing my novel all through the summer, and 2 weeks ago I sent it to a publisher. A perfectly awful day. My book has been rejected. It's insipid and lacks imagination. The plot is overwrought. The characters are shallow, and the humor is hopelessly sophomoric. Poor Jerusha Abbott, wounded to the core of her soul. Poor Jerusha Abbott, might as well be affiliated with the John Grier Home. I took my manuscript walking with me yesterday afternoon. And when I came to the boiler house, I went in and asked the janitor if I might borrow his furnace. He politely opened the door, and with my own hands, I chucked it in. I felt as though I had cremated my only child.
I'm so glad Master Jervie couldn't see my disappointment, for this is one blow I can only share with you, Daddy.
I went to bed last night utterly dejected. I thought I would never amount to anything and that you had thrown away your money for nothing. But what do you think?
I woke up this morning with a beautiful new plot in my head, and I've been going about all day planning my characters just as happy as I could be.
Master Jervie would be proud of me.
Never give up, he always used to say, though he seems to have given me up now.
Daddy dear, please observe the postmark. Sally and I are at Loch Willow for Easter, tramping over the hills and reading and writing. We climbed to the top of Sky Hill this morning, where Master Jervie and I once cooked our supper. It doesn't seem possible. It was nearly 2 years ago.
I could still see the place where the smoke of our fire blackened the rocks. It made me quite lonely to be there without him.
Lonely and a little frightened. How is that man? I mustn't wonder. I'm progressing with my book. I'm eating it up in chunks. I've caught the secret. Master Jervie is right about most things, and he was certainly right about this. You are most convincing when you write about the things you know. And this time it is something I know exhaustively. Guess where it's set?
In the John Grier home.
And it's good, Daddy. It's just about the tiny little things that happen every day. And it's going to get itself finished and published. You see if it doesn't. If you just want a thing hard enough and keep on persevering, you get it in the end. I've been trying for 4 years to get a letter out of you, and I haven't given up hope yet. Graduation is 3 weeks from next Wednesday. You will come and make my acquaintance, won't you? I shall hate you if you don't.
Sally's inviting Jimmy McBee. Julia's inviting Master Jervie.
I'll finally see him again, but he won't be there for me. He cares nothing for me anymore, I'm sure of that now. So who is there for me to invite? Just you and Mrs. Lippett, and I don't want her. You have to come, Daddy, to be proud of me. Just this once. Why does it feel like I'm flying? Somebody wake me at last, for I'm right on the edge of the wide, wide world. As I look at so many faces, a place I never dreamed I would be. There is one empty chair that I simply can't bear to see. And I'm fighting back the tears. Yes, I'm fighting back the tears on graduation day. Still, this is rather amazing. Summa cum laude and all. But it won't mean a thing if everyone's legs are small. I'm fighting back the tears. Yes, I'm fighting back the tears on graduation day.
I'm here, Jerusha. I'm standing in front of you now. I'm here, Jerusha. I just look like a person you know. I'm here, Jerusha. I'm here, Jerusha. And I'm fighting back the tears. Yes, I'm fighting back the tears on graduation day.
Well, this is your loss, Mr. Clothes Pole.
Well, here
Mr.
I
Pearlhanger, dear
am,
Mr. Smith,
right before you.
or whatever you're called, did not show
I'm right
you
here.
are not here, and I'm fighting back the tears,
Fighting back the tears.
breaking through my fears, for I will stand out from the crowd.
And you have made somebody
Make somebody
proud.
Jerusha Abbott, Bachelor of Arts, class of 1912. Summa cum laude. Valedictorian, you did it. I helped. A little. But it was only money. Money, it seems, that has now outlived its usefulness, and so Mr. John Smith, philanthropist and octogenarian, rest in peace. Charity. It bites the hand that dispenses it. It corrodes the heart of the giver, however pure his motives. If he truly cares for the person he helps, how can his money ever be enough? It builds a wall of gratitude that can never be climbed from either side. Charity, oh charity, now what can I do? Once I gave to those in need, now I'm in need of you. Charity, oh charity, I cannot believe how easier it is to give than to let yourself receive. For what you have given me came out of the blue. What you have done for me, I never could do. Charity, just who is helping who? You are free to go your way, whatever path you choose. But the love I've lost in you, my friend, was never mine to lose. For what you have given me came out of the blue. What you have done for me, I never could do. Charity, just who is helping who? Just who is helping who?
Dear Daddy Longlegs, I'm educated. My diploma's in a bottom bureau drawer with my 2 best dresses. I'm here at Lock Willow for the summer. Forever, maybe. The board is cheap, the surroundings quiet and conducive to a literary life. I'm mad about my book. I think of it every waking moment and dream of it at night. Master Jervy wrote me a very sweet letter in the week after graduation, full of warm wishes for the future. He seems to have recovered his old, lovely, sunny, funny self. But there's still something missing, and I can't work out what it is. Oh, and Jim McBride is dropping by sometime during the summer. He's connected with a bond house now and goes about the country selling bonds to banks. He's combining the Farmers National and me on the same trip. I used to think you might come motoring through Lock Willow one day. But when you didn't come to my graduation, I gave that up as a hopeless dream and buried it forever. Mr. Smith. I ought to let you know I'm thinking of moving. Sally is going to do settlement work in Boston next winter. I'm thinking of going with her. We could have a studio together. I could write while she settled.
I really am a writer now. And to prove it, here's a check for $1,000.
It seems so funny, me sending money to you. Where do you think I got it?
I've sold my story.
It's going to be published serially in 7 parts and then in a book. I owe you $2,000 more. The rest will be coming in installments. Don't be horrid, please, about taking it. I owe you more than money, and I will continue to pay all my life in gratitude and affection. Once I paid off my debt to you, all my future royalties will go to the John Grier Home. If the book does really well, they'll make me a trustee, just like you. Then you'll have to meet me. You see, Mr. Smith, I've got it all worked out. My first duty as a new trustee will be to reform the asylum under new management. You will help me, won't you? Mrs. Lippett must be replaced by someone generous and clever and sweet-natured. Don't you think Sally McBride would be the perfect choice? P.S. I've left the check blank for you to fill in your real name. Whatever it is.
I hold my breath as I read her words. I can't believe my eyes. I always knew she would have her day. Still, it takes me by surprise.
Here's Jerusha Abbott, author on the rise.
And I'm swept away by a wind of change. My path is now assured. She's free to live how she wants to live, for her future is secure.
As her loyal readers follow every word, I am beaming in Manhattan, intoxicated with unspeakable joy. I'm in heaven in Manhattan, but with caution to be sure, for there's one thing more.
There's a question in Manhattan for Jerusha.
Dear Daddy, something has happened. I know I washed my hands of you forever, but I need advice. I need it from you and from nobody else in the world. You know, I've always had a special feeling towards you, but you won't mind, will you, if I tell you I have a more special feeling towards another man? He reminds me of you, so proper and such. I suppose you have expected as much. We think the same thoughts, we share the same dreams. And when we're laughing, I swear time stands still. At least that's how it seems. Daddy, I'm sure I have wounded his soul. My poet, my mentor, my muse. 'Cause P.S. last night, Jervis asked for my hand.
Marry me, Jerusha. Give me your heart. You know you have mine.
Oh, why did I refuse? Now he's gone away imagining that I want to marry Jimmy McBride. I don't in the least. Jimmy's a lovely boy, but he isn't grown up enough, and I don't think he ever will be. The truth is, Daddy, I care for Mr. Pendleton too much to let him marry me, because I know he would regret it in the future, and I couldn't stand that. It just doesn't seem right that a person of my upbringing should marry into such a family as his. And I couldn't bring myself to tell him about the John Grier Home. I don't know who I am. My family may be dreadful, you know, and his family is so proud. And I'm so proud too. I've been thinking very hard about it. Of course, he is a socialist and has unconventional ideas. Maybe he wouldn't mind marrying an unknown orphan as much as some men might. Perhaps when two people exactly in accord, and always happy when together and lonely when apart, they ought not to let anything in the world stand between them. Of course, I want to believe that. Suppose I go to him and tell him that the problem isn't Jimmy, it's the John Grier home. Would that be a dreadful thing for me to do? It would take a great deal of courage. I'd almost rather be miserable the rest of my life. But oh, Daddy, I miss him, and miss him, and miss him. The whole world seems empty and aching without him. I hate the moonlight because it's beautiful and he isn't here to see it with me. But maybe you've loved somebody too, and you know how I feel. If you have, I don't need to explain. If you haven't, I can't explain. Daddy, what shall I do? Please let me see you. Please.
My dear young lady, please come to see me. Next Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I hope you will have no difficulty making your way to the above address. I'm afraid, however, that you may find me deficient in the sort of wisdom that you seek. I am, in fact, rather unpracticed in matters of the heart, as I fear you will discover when we finally meet. Your
Daddy Longlegs. I've discovered the secret of happiness is Wednesday afternoon. I've discovered the secret of happiness is that I will see you soon. A man as obscure as the man in the moon. Hello? Hello? Mr. Smith. What are you doing here? Do you know Mr. Smith? Or whatever he's called.
yes, I do.
So you know about me then? You know about the John Grier home?
I do.
How long have you known? Don't tell me. You can't be. His secretary?
Well, no, not exactly.
Where is he?
He's right here. I'm afraid.
You read my letters? All my letters? The ones about you? They were private letters!
I know.
They were letters to him, not you!
I know.
He would never have done such a thing! not even old.
Guilty. Guilty as charged.
I'm a beast. I'm a disappointment, and I've earned your contempt. I was rash, I was wrong. Oh, Jerusha, I'm no good at being strong.
How strong did you have to be to pick up a fountain pen?
So many times I wanted to tell you, but I lost my nerve. Now I feel your scorn and frustration. It's a bitter blow I well deserve. I'm a beast. I was overzealous. Guess I have a jealous heart.
How could you possibly imagine I would ever marry Jimmy McBride?
I was daft. I was blind. But Jerusha, I never meant to be unkind.
Anyway, it was all your fault.
My fault.
I never intended to pay the slightest attention to you. I said so in my perfectly sensible 9-point plan. Then you started sending me these ludicrously expressive letters, and my curiosity got the better of me. I had to see who this impetuous, delightful creature was, and I couldn't very well go dressed up as a bald old coot of 83, so I went as myself, such as I am.
Go on.
I would never have done such a silly, foolish, irrational, quixotic, idiotic, stubborn, childish thing if I had any idea at all. I would fall completely, madly, and hopelessly in love with you.
All the clues were there, right before my eyes. How could I be so surprised? And yet, it appears I never knew. All this time, Daddy has been you. How was I so blind that I could never see? You were always here with me, and yet it appears I never knew. All this time, Daddy has been you. Yet you lied and betrayed my trust. And you made me appear so foolish, though it seems I'm the last to know. I'd be a fool to let you go. Life may not
My
last
life will
long,
never last without
and
your
hearts
love.
might
I know it wasn't fair.